Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Frank. We're live.
Yeah, we are live. It's better than being dead.
Love the outlook.
Yeah, love the outlook. Yeah, isn't that funny? Like in Outlook, people like, "Hey, how's your day going?" Yeah, I'm still alive. It's like, yeah, it's good. You're doing good. Yeah, I'll let you know later how things will work out. You know?
Keep up the great attitude.
Yeah. Like, there's something peaceful about that, having that persona or that persona. I mean, that perspective on. It's like, well, I can walk. You know. It's like, yeah, you don't really ask for much. It's like, I can walk, you know. Therefore, life must be good. But there is something miraculous about that, because when you go down to the basics, if you can appreciate the basics, everything else just becomes easier, you know. And there is something nice about that, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is truly in the simple things, the little things that
And
we
God
find
knows
peace.
I'm simple.
Hey,
Yep.
no better way to live.
Yeah, they almost named me Simple when I was a child.
Glad they didn't go that route.
Well, they scared I wouldn't be able to spell it. So they went with Frank.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, nice and easy.
So you went to California this last week, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
California was nice. We went to the San Diego. We stayed in actually
Nice.
More Carlsbad, so northern San Diego County.
Yeah, Carlsbad's beautiful though.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
and we went into Oceanside as well. It was nice.
That's awesome.
There's something about the beach, you know, based on my perspective and my experience of growing up on South Shore of Long Island, and whenever the weather was nice, going to the beach. Even as I get older, I would go to the beach a lot, and I just like staring at the ocean, you know. And and also too, there's, you know, girls in bikinis. I'm just joking, Karen.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I had a really good time. It was just me and my son, you know.
I remember, yeah, you've gone to the beach for years.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I
you,
love the beach.
Karen, you know, your son, whoever.
Yeah.
But I remember one time you and I talking. I think this was like a year and a half, 2 years ago. But we were talking about how the beach. There's no difference in being at the beach and being where we are here right now. It's all in the mind.
Yeah, you know, other than the outward expression of it. You know,
Of course, the
but,
physical
yeah.
differences, etc. But the mentality, that mind, the feeling.
Yeah, and it's true, because I've said this before, and we've talked about this before, and when we start to look at the causation of stuff, and at some level we don't really fully know why the causations of the frequency of the vibrations happen, but we can feel them.
It's spontaneous.
Yeah, so just saying, I don't know why pizza tastes good, it just does. I don't need to know. But we often, it's so close knit, because there's correlations between the physical world and the spiritual world. You can't disconnect them. There's correlations. You try to do it, it's very difficult. But when you actually understand causations from where it's coming from more, it's easier to understand, and you don't put so much pressure on it. So how is the beach? Oh, the beach is great. Well, the beach isn't great. I just happen to be great and happen to be at the beach. So I try not to assign. I don't anymore. I try not to. Sometimes you slip into it. I try not to assign the outside world try not to sign it for the permission to why I'm happy. I'm just happy. But when we go to the beach, opposed to, like right now we're living in Phoenix, it's a desert. It sends a different frequency, or it's a different environment. So then the newness of it, even though I've been there many times before, is what creates more consciousness in the physical world. So then excitement comes in easier. But I'm not excited because of the beach. I'm excited. I just happen to be at the beach. And there's something I really want to emphasize on, because a lot of people are trying to create the outside world. It's like, oh, I'm not feeling good, I need to get to the beach. I'm like, you're just going to
You could be at the beach right here.
Yeah, because, you know, and I've said that before. I'm like, I need to get to the beach. But what I know now is, as I'm driving or flying to the beach, however I get there, I have to get my mind set in the moment when I realize it's not the beach that does it. It's my mind that allows me to be good. Because if I don't, I'll get to the beach and I'll be just as cranky as I am on the airplane or the car getting there. If I don't correct my mind, and it's something I could do instantly. Actually, everybody has the capacity to do it instantly. We're all alchemists. So any energy field that takes you out of the place in which you want to feel, you have the ability to transfer it into something else. there's different variances of what we call time and how to get there. Some can do it instantly. Some take 20 minutes, half hour. I used to take a week, right? So what's wrong with you? Last week this freaking thing happened.
Slow and steady.
Give me till Friday, right? If I'm not better by Friday, sock me in the head with the bat, right? Then we'll straighten it out, But right now, right when I recognize in this grumpy mood or what have you, I realize I can change my attitude. And just knowing I have the ability to change my attitude is what lets me change it. There's no effort. It's this miraculous thing. And this is the causation that we really don't know where it comes from. It's set out into innate ability in the physical world and throughout the universe. But it's the recognizing it and the power in one of the principles that we use in the physical world, the power of paradox, or the power of recognition or recognizing something or putting forth an idea about something is where the power lies, not in the thing itself. All right?
Say that again and kind of break it down, because that's a big point.
All right. So they use this a lot in placebo effects or tests. So if you suggest to someone, a doctor does, because they're the ones who prescribe medication, and if the doctor really is backing this type of medication and sells it to you, and you really buy into it to a degree in which you buy into it, once you take it, you'll get the effect that the output that you anticipated through the doctor's words. But it was the suggestibility that did it. And I think we talked about this on the last podcast, last Wednesday, and I'll briefly go over it. But they did this study, and they did multitudes of studies like this, but this one is as easy to explain in the suggestion of how things work. And it was these housekeepers, working in a hotel, and they took two groups. One group, they told everything they do from, changing the sheets to, vacuuming and all this type of stuff is considered to be physical activity as if you were going to the gym. The other group, they said nothing, even though they were doing the same exact work from the understanding of cleaning up the room and changing sheets. Well, over time, the group that was aware of it being physical activity and exercise, or what we call health, they actually, on average, lost 15 pounds. And I forgot the duration of it, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just trying to make the point of suggestibility. But prior to that, nothing happened. Like, they're doing the same thing day in and out. Is when they were aware of it. That's why even like the Fitbit, in the beginning of the Fitbit, it has a great effect on you because you're aware of how much you're walking. But chances are, sometimes the awareness might make you walk a little further. But a lot of people are already doing that walk, but they just weren't aware of it to understand I'm burning calories, And so now I'm walking. So now you got the Fitbit. It's like, oh, my God, I'm doing that. All of a sudden they notice they're losing weight and they feel better and stuff. But there is a point when you have to let go of the Fitbit because it would drive you mad then. Like, oh, shit, I did one step less than I did yesterday. And all of a sudden your mind goes, I wasn't efficient as I was yesterday. So therefore you start slowing down the effectiveness in it based on your mental output onto it. And they're starting to realize this placebo stuff, or permission slip, however you want to call it, is real. Now, it doesn't mean you don't go to the beach. It doesn't mean you just sit in a closet and think of the beach. Because the beach does have an output frequency different than the desert.
It cannot.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, exactly. It cannot. Everything would look the same. But I could feel just as excited and happy in the desert or in the cold or whatever, because that's a choice to allow me to do that. But the experience, the output is already shifting as I move there because I have to become one with it. So one would say, if you're actually in a holograph, did you really travel, or did you open up to a different frequency? And people are like, what do you mean? Well, when you watch a movie, say you watch a movie and the duration of the movie, like Forrest Gump was over duration of over, I think, 4 decades. And the movement time, but the movie was what? I don't know, like 2 hours.
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. So they squeezed 4 decades into 2.5 hours. And from a time vantage point of how we calculate time, it's very interesting. And even movement in time, well, that screen didn't move relative to the room in which you're in. But there was a perception that it did, like things were moving on it. So what is going on here? It's as each frame shifted and changed and had the idea of movement and how we see movement and light and frequency output is 24 frames per second. it allowed us to think something's moving. Now, something is moving, but not in this linear perspective how we see it, but we perceive it that way. And when that happens, it's a different output of frequency of frames that are happening. So that's the change. And we are part of that. But this thing is it's like playing like three-card Monte. And when you have a good practitioner of it, you cannot see where the red king is. It's because it's moving so fast. But yet, there are two black kings and a red king. A spade and a diamond. And then there would be a club, right? So you have two black, a club and a spade, and then you have the red diamonds. But as you're moving really quick, you can't see it with the eye. So something else is going on deeper than we can understand. But yet when we start to understand the principle, you realize we have the capacity to feel good and exciting. And the way I express is by letting go of having to do that or letting go of anything. And I give no worth, or I shouldn't say worth. I don't give any. I don't hold anything onto the beach to make me happy. It's not its job, because I'll be pissed at the beach then. And speaking from my experiences, I would do that. Like I was in a bad mood. I go down to the beach and I just end up kicking sand around, And I was like, the beach is not doing it. Then I drive here, and in the interim of me making these movements or becoming conscious of the movements, I got distracted. All of a sudden, I fell into it. I'm like, maybe it's the car ride that's making me,
We think we're the doer. We're in the doing, and it's the witness of the doing and the doer.
Yeah, and there's something even there. There's a granite of understanding there. Is when I'm moving towards something like, so say I go to the beach a couple times a year, all right? So opposed to going to the gym every day, all right? So going to the gym every day, I have to create a different output of thought into something, a different way of perceiving it in order to have excitement. And I do. I have the ability to do that. But if I'm only going to the beach, say going to San Diego twice a year, it's easier because you almost forgot about it. So it seems easier to put the excitement onto it because it's something new. And why? Because I have to stay conscious. And whenever we're in a state of consciousness, you automatically let go of the past and the future, and you become present. And when you're in that state, all of a sudden you settle down to this peaceful place, and then the mind becomes positive, if you will. It's a natural state we fall into. There's no work. But when you're doing things, activities day in and day out, it takes the control of the mind to perceive it differently in order to keep it excitement. You don't have to change the gym and change your workout. You can. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you do change your workout or change the gym, you become conscious because you have to do something different. So your subconscious has to step out of the way for a moment because I'm going to a whole different place. I'm unaware of that. And that distracts you from thinking. But when you're actually always moving in what we call the subconscious mind, it allows the conscious mind to say, I wonder if this workout's going to be good. It could suck. Well, yesterday was good. Well, remember the other day. All of a sudden you go and you start getting a headache. And it's like, geez, I don't even want to go to the freaking gym. But it had nothing to do with that. It had the time and space for your mind to allow it to drift. Now, I'm not saying you have to stay active all the time because that's nuts. But I've learned through meditation, I can do this when I'm driving, I can do this when I'm working, so I don't need to have music playing low or quiet or anything, or candle lit and my eyes closed to have this. But I can literally drop thoughts and go into contemplation or just feel my body settle. I was actually talking to someone about this today. I learned this as a child. When I say child, like, I think it was around 10 years old, 12 years old, around that age, when I started getting into playing lacrosse. And, it was mainly, it's a spring sport, and you're on grass. And I would get hay fever. Now,
What's hay fever?
It's like allergies.
Oh, okay.
So it's from grass, and they call it hay fever. So I would get like asthmatic, a sport-induced asthma is what they call it. So it only happened when I was around that time. Now, I played football and I boxed. For boxing, you're inside a ring. You're not around the grass. And football was primarily played in the fall, so you didn't really experience that. I played soccer a little bit, not that much. Baseball, you're not really running around. You're on dirt mainly, but there's grass. But I noticed when I was playing lacrosse that would happen. And I learned because I didn't have many tools, but when I feel asthma coming on, I would sit, go off to the side, and I knew I could calm myself down, and I could feel my chest starting to break apart, and I would feel like the phlegm, not to sound gross, but breaking apart. And it was my mind allowing to settle down. I actually learned to control the way my body was working through my mind without even knowing I was doing it. But it was a safety mechanism because we didn't have...
Our most natural state.
I didn't have tools like a puffer to run to when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't like asthmatic to where I was never in a state where I thought I was going to die, but it would hinder my running up and down the field. I couldn't do it. I would just gas out.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember going off the side by myself, not talking, and just feeling my breath slow down, my heart rate slow down. I could really feel it. And I didn't even know what I was doing. But when I was talking to a client today about the understanding of letting go and getting quiet, the body and everything else knows what to do. You don't need to work at it. So it's not like, oh, how to think positive. I'm like, don't try to think positive. Try not to think. And you fall into this place of positive. And what I got out of it is I was able to control the physiology of my body to an extent, At that moment, I was able to calm it down. And the meditation, I do the same. So I'm doing it now with my eyes open. But I believe I didn't realize it till today that I was actually already doing it as a child, and I didn't even know what the word meditation was at the time. But I was able to control it. No one taught me it. It was just something innate in me that says if I want to keep playing this sport, because I'm not going to go home. I didn't like to quit shit. I have to get my breath under control, and I did it.
I think there's many examples all of us could look back on and realize, wow, we were doing this without being conscious of doing it.
Yeah.
Because I look back at moments in my life too, back when I played in a band, for example, the way, the trajectory of like getting to travel and me being at home, seeing that travel, knowing it was coming and not understanding what I was doing and how I was participating in the experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I look back at that too, and I say to myself, wow, I was actively involved with these concepts without even knowing, what was going on or what would come of it or anything. And that's why it's so great to look back and realize it is our most natural state to be what we always have been and always will be.
Yeah.
We keep thinking that we need to do something in order to get somewhere, and we are already there.
We are.
All of us.
Yeah. Now, and that's just it. So
as we are right now in this moment.
So what me and Mike are doing is to some degree intellectualizing these experiences. And why? Because we enjoy talking about it, and it helps us get deeper, but it's not necessary. It really isn't. So at some level, at empirical level of this understanding, we all are already there. We're just expressing it different. And there was a time where I'm like, I'm out of my mind. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm not spiritual. I don't feel like I'm spiritual. But you are spiritual, because what is spiritual? Well, the breakdown of spirituality is this frequency or energy output. So we realize what is material world and what's spiritual world. Well, they're one and the same in a sense. What I mean is, what material world is the spirit at a lower dense frequency. And what I mean is, when something is more at a higher frequency vibration, it's more malleable. When something is a low density, it's more, solidified. It's hard. So like this table has a lower frequency density, say, than the liquid in my cup. But yet they're all working on the same not same frequency, but the same output of energy, just lower dense frequencies. So as we, you can intellectualize it, understand it, but that's all is different variants of frequencies that create the physical world and the spiritual world. Like if you look at like steam, it's like, it's more spiritual or lucid, and this, then you can't grab it. Just like you can't grab water, but you can grab onto this table.
Or ice.
Yeah, and
all same.
Yeah, and all
compounds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
steam, water, ice.
Yeah, different, and they're different frequencies.
Exactly, but same.
Yeah. So, And when you actually start to understand it, you can take, water, the molecule of water, and change it into 3 different states, right? And based on the frequency output on it. So when you lower it, it gets what we call cold. It takes the heat out. So the friction is almost gone. But there is something there.
I liked how you said, like, you and I were trying to describe this on an intellectual or level. We're trying to tell a story about this. And that's what Frank and I are trying to do, because in reality, if we were to try to truly describe what we're experiencing, what this is, it wouldn't be us talking. It would just be.
But this is part of the physical world, so it's not about
absolutely.
And that's what
But what is consciousness? It's
and we don't know it's next level. Like I was listening to a podcast with Joe Rogan recently. It was actually it was on the way back from San Diego.
Nice.
And I like listening. He's a funny dude.
Yeah, he's good.
He's very intelligent, and he's very he gets really studies the people coming on. He knows a lot. But the guy who was on, I forgot his name, but he worked for the CIA. He's now running his own company. And they were talking about these concepts, everything from like cyber attacks from different countries and stuff like that. And when I look at stuff, I'm not looking for, when I hone in on something, my angle on it is not necessarily for the information, although it comes across, but it's how people communicate. And part of that conversation was getting into technology. And this guy put up, it's like, yeah, one day you're just going to be able to walk in a room and know what somebody's somewhat thinking because the technology is there. And some of that technology is actually being developed by Elon Musk. It's going to be more hardwired into the brain. And so we already know this technique. It's called technology. It's called telepathic communication. Telepathy or telepathic. What telepathy is just the empathetic understanding what people's frequencies out. Now, we're moving in that direction, but Joe Rogan's like, this scares the fucking shit out of me. It's like just know someone's going to think you're doing. But again, when we get closer to it, you're going to be used to it. But if I told you that,
keep your vibration in check.
Yeah, if I told you, well, it's not even about keeping it in check. It's not even that.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like women, like ladies out there, when a guy is hitting on you. And the reason a guy is hitting on you is because of the frequency in which their thoughts, their mental chatter being projected and them thinking so much in their head, it comes through us.
Yeah, and do you know why? All right, but
you see what I'm saying though? That's that knowing.
But know this: when we get to that level, women, it won't be creepy.
Oh no, I feel like a lot of people will understand. Like,
no, but I'm saying, like, to get to that place, we have to have a completely different mindset from a guy. Why is a guy hitting on a woman anyway?
Exactly.
Because he's trying to collect something.
It will just be
there won't be any creepiness to it. Yep. But right now, when you look at people or deal with people, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just different frequency settings. And the guy that the person comes across creepy, why are they creepy? Because they're awkward. So it's an awkward frequency output because their energy field and what they want or what they think they want is coming across.
Exactly.
And it's not in sync with the person. That's what the definition of creepy is.
Yeah.
But at some level, it wouldn't be creepy. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, it came across creepy. It's because it's an awkward setting
and
of frequency.
This isn't just like an example for women with men hitting on. Remember a time we all know somebody who's insecure. We wear the emotions as we're speaking. We think we're hiding them, but you can tell when somebody's sad, depressed, insecure simply by speaking with them. And it has everything to do with their frequency vibration. It is all of the thoughts in their head radiating off of them.
Yeah.
And them trying to, talk through it, et cetera, and the thinking mind just completely taking over. This is why when you are engaged in a genuine conversation, no thought, empty, that's
well, it's called in sync. So when you're in sync with somebody, just like a band members, a guitar player, drummer, vocalist, bass player, when they're in sync, we call that a song. It's in harmony or moving. But when you're not, it sounds like shit. But it's an alert system. That's why when you don't want like a police officer showing up playing Beethoven's Ninth. You want a siren. And what's a siren? What's the sound of a siren? It's the major high put of frequency interference. Like, it's interference of noise. We don't like it, but it makes us alert. And when people get awkward or creepy, they're interfering with the frequency in which they are, and then the words come out awkward. But yet, they did this skit on Saturday Night Live, and it was trying to relate it to inappropriate sexual harassment in the work place.
Okay.
So they have a guy come out, and I don't know who someone described this to me, but I was laughing just from the description. I didn't actually see it. So this guy would come out and go up to a woman and say something like, "Hey, what are you doing later?" And she's like, creeped out by it. And then he did the same scene, same exact words, but it was Tom Brady. It wasn't sexual harassment because it was Tom Brady. Oh, yeah, well, I'll get a drink with you. Yeah,
That's funny.
It is funny because it's understanding. So as we advance, the average guy will know what kind of mood the woman is in order to even approach it. But a lot of guys, they don't even wait for that. I'm like, can't you see she's pissed off? Now's not the time. I don't see shit. I'm just going for it. But when you come in sync with it, it meshes. And even if you if you're really good at this, you could see a woman that's pissed off. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to try to pick her up. I'm going to actually go in and engage by saying, hey, why are you sad? Mm-hmm. And people are like, it's the start of a pickup line. Yeah, but if you can get it to turn around, it's this game you play. And this is where we find the attraction. Just like members of that play instruments differently become attracted to each other because they get into sync. And we have the capacity to do that. But when you try to interfere with somebody, it comes across as what we call creepy. So that being said, when we get to that level of telepathic communication, you won't have to worry about invasion. You won't. But right here in this clunky way, and I say clunky because it's not really clunky, but vocabulary will be clunky compared to telepathic communication. Think about soldiers on the field. They're walking into a building and they're doing all these signs. Mm-hmm. They don't talk. But they essentially know what they're talking about. Oh yeah. And what they do is they train day in and day out. They live together and they get they get into the sync. Just like women that tend to live together all get into the same menstrual cycle. Correct. There's this balancing out. The more time you spend with people, the less words you need to say. Unless Karen's like, hey, how come you're quiet? I'm like, yeah, we've been together 9 years. So trying this telepathic communication.
Just telling you I love you.
Yeah. She doesn't buy it. So I'm like, all right, I'm
working on my telepathy.
I'm trying to work on my telepathy.
Frank,
how's it working?
Oh, that's awesome. Don't you feel it, babe?
I just told you a poem in telepathy.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Karen, don't be upset with me. Telepathy.
But it's so true.
It is.
And it is a different level. It's also a relationship that we have with our siblings at home.
Yeah, it's actually a relationship we have with ourselves.
We have with everything.
Yeah, everything. Yeah.
I'm trying to bring up those moments we're keen to it.
Yeah.
Like when your family members, your brother, your sister, they can finish your sentences. They know it's that. That's what Frank and I are talking about. Telepathy exists and has always existed.
It does, but right now it's almost like we're in the babble stage, like a child is prior to learning the full.
And a lot of it is
I'm still in the babble
is
stage.
The conditionedness of that doesn't exist, and I can't wait for this too. It's all mind as well.
No,
and if we can clear that of our realm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I've come to understand this. It's not that there's any work we have to do. We're going to naturally get there. People always think, it's because I did this and did that. Each set of sequence of causations were completely isolated from themselves. Just because you went from the CD to the MP3 player, the CD wasn't the causation of the MP3 player. There's just too far of the butterflies flapping of the wings to try to get it to why the storms, the hurricane hit the north banks or the outer banks of Carolinas 6 months later. I'm like, it's too much involved to try to figure that out.
Well, there's such a conditioned pattern in that thinking too, that this did this, so this happened to this. We
no.
do that as a conditioned being.
Yeah,
when everything is spontaneously happening around us, and our brain, the tool of the brain, is to assign and associate.
Yeah,
and to repeat. And so it's going. This is why this has happened. This and this and all of that. It's just not true. It just is That's literally just thought, non-existent. Nothing of that is true.
Yeah, things that happen spontaneous. But the true causation is beyond the scope of understanding it. And, there's scientists out there that are going deeper. And when they get into the field of quantum physics, I was talking to a quantum physicist one time, and they said, it was very interesting. If you think you know quantum physics, you don't know quantum physics. And I found that to be, it was funny because... And here's a person that studied quantum physics, and they're very well known in their field, but yet they have this childlike state of not needing to know, but understanding this other knowing without knowing.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking. Yeah, and that's why I
like how you said that.
Yeah,
because that truly describes
it.
it.
Yeah, and it's cool. So I could sit around.
It's kind of like knowing. I know this will work out. I don't know how it will work out. I don't need to know how it will work out in order for it to work out.
No, and when this chapter ends, another one will begin. But when the chapter ends, it's like, new chapter. Move on. So there seems to be a sequence of setting out, but one wasn't the causation of another. And what I mean is, you can take any book and say there's a book of 27 chapters, all right? And if you take that book and say the author had written it in a certain sequence, all right? But you can take that book, and the editor can take the book, or the publishing house can take the book, and scramble around the chapters. So what was chapter 5, we could say is chapter 2, but yet the sequence is written. And if you read the whole book, you will come to an understanding of the book, all right? Just like the movie Pulp Fiction. The way that was shot, it was a set sequence, but then it was taken out of sequence, and so you're watching it, and not sometimes, but when you take things out of sequence, it forces the audience or the participant in it, whether it's a book or watch a movie, to be conscious. He's like, hey, what's going on here? It's like, oh. So if I'm driving to work, the same job every day, I created a concept of that as a sequence. I go to the gym, I do the same workout. I create a concept as a sequence. But then I invite a buddy along, and he's saying, hey, let's go to my gym. I go to his gym, and I'm doing a workout I've never done before. I'm like, oh, I'm out of sync. I'm out of sequence. So what do I have to do? I have to become conscious. And then there's a great effect onto that because I can't think anymore. I just have to respond. So when I shift that around, at the end of it, you'll get it, But sometimes we do things in such lapse of sequence. All of a sudden, we get to this mundane state, and it's not the workout, it's not what you did, it's the mind that's saying, I'm getting bored. So what they said, there's no such thing as boredom other than a bored mind. But when you start understanding the sequence thing, if I literally took a book of 27 chapters and relabeled the chapters, but moved them around, and if you read the whole book, you would understand the concept of the story. You would. It would just be a little different than what you used to, just like most people when they had seen Pulp Fiction or what was that other movie that was kind of like that?
That was backwards, or it would go.
Yeah, there was, what the hell? It was by a different author, different director, Memento. So when you watch it, I was like, what the hell is going on? But it made you pay attention. Now, if you watched long enough, that would be a new set of sequence, and you think, yeah, this is how things run. Because we live in a quantum universe, so everything is happening now, but we can only express it in the moments in which we're in, which is only one moment. Just like when I'm looking at a book, I can only read one page at a time, and I can only look at one word at a time, and I can only look at one sequence of letters within a word to break it down at a time. But we're doing it so quickly that it seems fluid in movement. But it all becomes an illusion at some point.
And that's what's so funny is we're this massive supercomputer, or this tool that we call a body and we call ourselves. All this is just this crazy instrument that gives us the ability.
I'm basically an abacus. I'm not really a supercomputer. I'm just little beads moving around. Metal. Yeah,
But
I'm basic.
it's funny at the same time because
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes is by Saint Francis,
There you go.
and it's the place you are looking for is the place you are looking from. I'm going to say that again, and it's what you are looking for is is where you are looking from, and what he means by this is
Well, what you come to understand, because
or
that's
what
a
you're
brilliant.
searching
Yeah.
for. Yeah. It's like what you're searching for. Oh, I see what you.
Yeah.
What I came to understand. Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I can't speak for Saint Francis.
Well, St. Francis, if he was still alive, he would still be looking at it differently.
Absolutely.
We know that. Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's that spontaneous.
Or he was probably saying, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, he definitely was saying that.
Sorry, I cannot use St. Francis and the F word in the
That's
same
why
thing.
I
My dad will
stopped.
beat the shit out of me. I am sorry, Dad.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'll erase that.
But that sounds kind of like, scratch your head. But when you, I don't want to say when you find it, when you be, it is all there.
But there's something innate about that, because it's anyone that listens to that, it will stop them in their track. Because I've heard people say ridiculous stuff. I'm like, I'm not even giving it a glance.
Well,
But yet when you hear that, I'm like, there's something there that innately wants you to go down that rabbit hole to figure it out. But there's nothing to figure out at the end of the hole.
it's so funny because
You could probably write a whole book just on that phrase.
Even with the spiritual stuff, we make the spiritual stuff mind. Is what I'm getting at.
Well, the world.
We're like, okay, I got to get up and I got to meditate, and I got to do this in order to. No,
the universe is mind.
we just are.
Yeah.
We just are.
Yeah.
Any this or that or need, desire, that's not it. It's only in this space. That's what we are. That's what this is.
Yeah.
It's very I don't know, that's so beautiful to me.
Well, that's so, like, getting back to that, it just occurred to me in the understanding as you're speaking about this. What it is, we're trying to find the truth and then solidify it and put it up on a building and say this is truth forever, and you can't. So even if it's any quote that St. Francis made or Einstein or anyone that we actually would put on a T-shirt, because you certainly wouldn't put mine on a T-shirt.
I would. I would totally rock a Frank Daly.
But even if Einstein wrote it and wore a T-shirt, or somebody see it and wore see a T-shirt, and be like, huh, did I really say that? Or he wouldn't deny the quote, but then how he would, if he went on an interview and say he was interviewed by 5 people over a certain period of time, how he would express the quote would be different. I see this with musicians all the time. You ask Paul McCartney, back in the heyday in the 60s, 70s about a song, and he would express it to you. And then you ask him now about the same song, he would express it different, because he's coming from a different place of looking at it. He's looking at it differently. He has to look at it different. Even though he was part and parcel of writing the song, he was, the main proprietor of the music coming through him, he still will look at it differently. We're forced to. So stop trying to solidify, this is what it means. I'm like, all truths are half-truths, but these empirical truths are what makes all truths half-truths. And so the argument, will people fight over? It's like, it's kind of funny to me, because in the principle of polarity, your argument, if you're really good at arguing this point, you can actually take this point and argue it just as well. So what are you getting at? It then comes down from a perspective, and it's a half-truth. And what I mean half-truth, it's true for me at the moment in which I'm in. It might not be true for me tomorrow.
So,
which drive Karen nuts. It's like, you said this. I'm like, do not carry anything I say. All the shit that comes out of my mouth is just utter nonsense half the time. And then I end up explaining myself, and I'm really good at explaining myself on the fly, but I realize it's just how I see it at the moment now.
Yeah. Well, what you are searching for is where you are searching from. When I first heard that, it's break it down like nice and slow, okay? You are searching, so I'm searching for peace. You already are peace. You are searching for love. You already are love. You are searching for worthiness. You already are worthy. You are searching for abundance. You are already abundant. And so it's in the search that we get tangled, because that's mind. How can you be looking for or working towards what you already are? And there's nothing to be, because that is a narrated story. So like I will, in order to be happy, I got to have the house and then the job, and then the kids and the picket fence. No. You be happy. You are happy.
And
what you're searching for, you are
Yeah.
searching from. And it's this gap that we think we need out here before we have here, and it's the exact same thing. It's the parallel. It's the we are that mirror,
Yeah, and that's why, like, what's interesting is because mainly here in the United States, and again, I'm just saying this from an output because we live here and other stuff, but we have a lot of technology and we have a lot of ability to voice ourselves. So I've also find people too that start studying other philosophies, mainly Eastern and stuff, and they say, well, people here and people there do this, but I'm like, that's just a perception. And one isn't better than the other, just people express themselves differently. And why we fall into this searching is because you see someone and you notice their happiness, and now you're trying to reverse engineer what they're doing. And I'm like, it isn't what they're doing that's making them happy. They're happy allows them to do what they're doing, but it isn't the causation. So when we get caught up in the outside world in the examination, we're always going to be searching, because you're never going to touch it, because everything is fleeting. So you're trying to grab something. It's like getting in a movie theater and you notice that the beam of light is coming through the theater and hitting the screen. So what do you say? What happens if I put my hand up? I can watch the movie closer. It's like I'm trying to grab the movie. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to affect you anything because you're trying to grab for something that's not grabbable. The outside world is not grabbable. It's always fleeting. It's what we call inside. And what is inside? It's a concept. I'm like, inside my brain, you could open the brain up. But no, that's still a tangible, physical thing. But there's something else out there in the spiritual realm. Where's it come from? I don't know. I don't know where to put my finger on it. But when I use the concept of inside, I can use like a physical object. But yet it's still a concept for me to actually get my brain there, to wrap my head around it if it's possible. But I realize if I'm literally looking at someone and saying, oh, that person's happy. They look like they have a great life. What are they doing? What do they own? I want a girl that looks like that. I want that car. And then you think if you had all that stuff,
then I'll be happy.
Yeah, you'll be happy. Or now you're just a carbon copy, and you probably creep the dude out or the woman out that you're trying to copy, right? So, was that movie years ago with, I think it was Patricia Arquette and Madonna. It was called Desperately Seeking Susan.
Okay.
And I think it was Patricia Arquette. Or one of the Arquette sisters. I think I can't remember, but this woman was following around. Yeah, she was seeking out Susan, who was played by, if I'm getting this right, Madonna years ago.
Okay.
And she was trying to mimic her and copy her because she felt enamored with her, and she was trying to do it, but you can't. You just come across as a stalker. You know what I'm saying? And this is how stalking and all these odd, awkward behaviors begin. They think that person has something you want, so you want to capture that person. You lock them up at the room. You do this. You hold captivity in your mind. You don't have to hold someone locked up with chains and stuff like that to actually put a mindset of holding on to it. We see it in relationships all the time. But what do you think that person has that you don't have? Because they're just a concept. So searching came from looking at the outside world to examine. So, I climbed a tree and it made me happy. So now you actually own a forest and you start chopping down trees. I'm like, no. You were happy. You just happened to be in the woods. You happened to climb a tree that day. You were happy. You just happened to be at the beach. The beach had nothing to do with it. The beach was an expression of it. The tree was an expression of your happiness. The relationship you're in with is an expression of your happiness. It's not the causation of your happiness. Once you take the relationship, the outside thing, as the happiness, this is where all arguing, fighting starts. Now you got to get that person to do what you want to do. And it always starts the first day you actually felt happy around them. It's usually like the first date or the first time, the excitement of something happened. So now you want them like, hey, honey, put that maid's outfit on again.
That's funny though, but that's the reason.
Like, I will if you put the pool boy outfit on.
But that's the reason that exists is exactly that.
It's because we read it backwards. We put the carriage in front of the horse rather than the horse in front of the carriage. So when you actually have the horse in front of the carriage, you're no longer searching. You're just experiencing and exploring. There's a difference. You're exploring the unknown. You're not searching. You're just exploring it. And you're having an experience, but you're no longer searching for it. It's like searching for the car, driving around town. You realize when you pass by a shiny plate glass window and you realize, holy shit, I'm in the goddamn car I've been searching for. Now let's go on a vacation.
Yeah.
But you didn't realize you were in the car because you couldn't see the reflection. You just saw the inside of the car. You are already it. Now go experience the unknown. Stop searching for something so you can have the unknown experience.
You are already here. You are already there. That is the biggest affirmation that you can give yourself is to
be here and now.
Let go and say,
who was that? Timothy Leary?
I've got nowhere to tune in, drop out, or whatever.
Tune in, drop out. Be here and now. Yeah.
Be here. Oh, no, that's Ram Dass.
That's Ram Dass. Here we go. That was
Here
his
and
buddy.
Now Network.
Ram Dass was friends. Yeah. One guy was on it. Well, they actually both did. But anyway, that's for another day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But the idea that you have anything to complete or have anything to do or anywhere to be is simply not true.
No.
And I know we have these. We're not saying that responsibilities like feeding your family, your children, you got to. Yes, all those activities, they will happen. You will go to work. You will feed your child. You will do these things, but you no longer are involved mentally. And what I mean by that is you are no longer narrating a mental narration of why you are doing that task and why that task stinks or why this is hard. It just flows. You understand that it's part. Like, do I like to work? No. I understand work is part of this material world. I understand it. I must obtain some dollar in order to have food, or pay bill.
Yeah, yes.
That's to a certain degree. I know what you mean.
But
it's all permission.
There's a homeless person that doesn't work and just sits there and gets food and fed every day as
exactly. And that's why this whole concept. Yeah. But what I mean
is farmer.
I don't want people to think, I guess where I'm going with this is I don't want people to think that just because you let go means the world around you begins to crumble.
No.
It means that you no longer will do the tasks.
No, like
of the day.
Mike loves to say, you still gather water and chop wood.
Yes, that's the best.
But you
way
actually
to say
enjoy gathering water and you enjoy chopping wood. It's no longer a chore. It's no longer work. So when we use the word work, we're defining it as something that.
Explain the gathering of the water, chopping of the wood.
Yeah, so it's something like if you.
So it's tough to go out and chop that wood, right?
It is
and to get the water.
If you actually believe it's tough.
Exactly.
It isn't tough.
So look at this from what Frank and I are talking about. Okay, so when I go to chop this piece of wood, I got to go get my axe, and then after that, it takes a while for me to clean up after I chop the wood. And then, man, I got to do that after I only got 3 hours till the sun goes down, so I got to do it right now. That's not chopping wood. You're caught in thought. Same thing with gathering the water. Why is this water so heavy, man? Why doesn't anybody in my family ever have to go get the water? Why am I the only one who has to ever take this water? I shouldn't have to be this person. Is this really me? I shouldn't take this from them. Oh, so it's not the gathering of the water that's hard. It's the mental commentary that goes with gathering the water and with chopping of the wood. So when you can clear that mental commentary, you no longer chop the wood or gather the water. You just chop the wood and gather the water.
But you actually enjoy the process. It becomes your
Exactly.
actual personal meditation.
Yep. And
Yeah.
guys, take this for anything: doing dishes, doing laundry,
Anything.
folding your bed, making your bed in the morning.
Or what tasks you do at work.
Yep.
Because if you're actually looking for a better job, now a better job will never come along. But in life, through expansion, a greater job will. It's difference. One isn't better than the other. It's just greater and less than is a mathematical term, which I explained before. It just understands a sequence of energy frequency moving in a certain direction. But if you don't enjoy or come to understand the value in what you're doing now, you never will. You can get up to be a CEO of a company and you're just going to go home and have to take more anxiety medication. That's it. And then you're like wishing we were still working in the mailroom. Because now you made it to the pinnacle of what you thought the pinnacle was, thinking that it'll be easier, and realize the easiest job I had was in the mailroom. Why? Well, the reason the mailroom's the easiest, you didn't put so much pressure on yourself.
You weren't so afraid to fail.
Yeah. There was no failing, like when we lose a letter or something. And not to take away from the mailroom, but I don't even need to say that because people are going to understand this concept.
Correct.
But if you maintain the same attitude as you did in the mailroom and the CEO, you don't go home and take anti-anxiety medication. You enjoy it. People associate like, oh, I don't want to do that. It creates anxiety. I'm like, how do you know? You've never been there. Well,
I think it might.
But yeah, stop thinking about it. I get a headache, It's like, no, what are you, insane?
This is why people go their whole lives without doing anything.
No, it's like people are like, oh my God, I do this, and I feel a headache. How the hell is the president of the United States do it? I'm like, well, they chop the wood and gather the water differently in the mindset in which you do. Because if they didn't, the head would just go boom, it would explode. They would never get there.
I'm glad you brought up the president. Do you remember Alan Watts, what he said about that?
Oh,
I love that.
About the persona of a president.
Oh no.
Which one?
So the president of the United States cannot lay in bed. How could he sleep at night or she sleep at night if the president was unable to trust in the superiors, or excuse me, not the superiors, in his direct reports? The army, the
essentially trusting in the universal laws that govern this plane. Yeah.
We can't all worry about is this happening and then this. Yeah. It's that micromanaging.
Well, it's called delegation.
Yeah, that's what he. Yeah. That's actually the talk. So you remember the talk.
Yeah, well, I
love that because you have to
be
able to delegate.
Yeah, but the other talk that I heard him say, and I thought it was pretty funny, goes, a president that is a president of a country, here in the United States or other places that controlling, are the least effective in doing anything, especially here in the United States, because they always have to answer questions where they could be doing their job. And it was just funny, because imagine like you're working, someone's like, hey, why are you doing that? Hey, why are you doing that? And it's like, well, Jim, you saw you do a 3-hour press conference. Meanwhile, you could have been doing something. So the least effective in what we call in the physical plane is the president, but the president relies on the delegation, what they do. So the president's like, oh, he does nothing but play golf. He doesn't need to. He's delegating. I'm like, let him play golf, because it's a figurehead of delegation. I don't expect the guy that the CEO of the company to be in the mailroom sorting out mail, because this thing would all topple over. Everyone has a part. Anyone that's ever watched that series called Downton Abbey understands it. When you actually watch it and you get through the whole series, I didn't get through the whole series, but you get in long enough, deep enough, you realize even the head of the house and then the person that's doing, something, working in the laundry, all have a part. If one of those pieces of the puzzle don't do their job, even what we consider the head of the house isn't effective. They all have to work. Even the bearings in my car have to be just as oiled and working smoothly as the pistons in the engine, or else the engine will be working supreme. But if the tire doesn't roll properly, the car isn't functional at the way it was supposed to be. Every piece has its purpose, and they're all equal in the value, because once one goes down, it all goes down. So you'll no longer value. Yes, in an energy field, the head of the household has a higher frequency output of understanding, but it isn't better. It's just different. We all can't be doing the same thing. We'll be stepping on each other. So when you're gathering the water, wondering why your brother isn't gathering the water, I'm like, well, you are. The family will drown if you walk out of the water. He's grabbing the fire, the wood, and then someone's grabbing the tungsten to create the fire. They're all doing their part, but you
it's
only
easy.
see.
It's
you
easier
only
to
see
grab the wood. It's easier to do. You see where the mind goes? No, I'm just pointing it out.
Well, you only see what you're doing, so you think no one else is doing anything. I'm like, that's absurd.
Exactly.
Everyone's doing their part.
Or you say it's easier to do that. This is what we're pointing out. This is how the mind works.
Yeah, and I've learned that through delegation within my company, with my business. In the beginning, I was like, I try to be not micromanaging. Now I am completely trusting everyone, and I guide by the way I focus on what I'm doing at the time and present moment in which I'm in. And
the only way to lead.
It's one way to lead. For me, it's the least disruptive. And I've noticed the output effect is tenfold. The business is growing tenfold. Everyone's happy. No one wants to leave. People want to come in and work for me, but there's not enough room at times. That's the place to be. It's because the environment is running like a great machine. Just like a great band. Every musician only focuses on their instrument and trusts that everyone else will do theirs. You see dysfunction in bands when there's one person saying, "You're not playing that properly." And then finally when everyone says, "Shut the fuck up," and they do, and all of a sudden the music sounds great because they trust it. And then who is that person? Like, they're trying to gain some trip saying, "I'm the best musician." Well, go play by yourself then.
It's the ego. We all have the ego.
Yeah. But once you shut it out, you delegate, you become more efficient. And actually what happens, the output in which you actually wanted, that's why you wanted to control, becomes greater. And all of a sudden, what am I in control of? I'm like, I'm not in control of anything. The universe is. But if I play my frequency, even if someone else isn't there doing the job or upset, it still works out for me in my company. It does. I've seen this before. I've seen people to where I didn't have to fire them. They just got to a place where they simply left. I'm like, all right, I wish you well. I didn't have to disrupt anything, and it was just went away. But if I kept saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And now my eyes on you, and I'm watching them, all of a sudden what I was doing the previous moment, I'm no longer doing. So now I'm suffering. I can blame you. I'm suffering in my task in this business because I have to focus on you. Well, who's to blame there? I could blame them. Like, why did the business fail? Oh, I got a bunch of idiots working for me. And why are they idiots? Because I deemed them to be idiots, and because I gave them the concept of being idiots, I acted as if they were idiots, and I treated them like idiots. And when I treated people like idiots, what do? They act like idiots.
Exactly.
I created that. But if I create everyone as if they're the owner of the business, and I champion them, they act like champions. It's the law of conduction, or induction, I should say. If I create and hold that frequency, I have the ability to induct people just like someone inducted me with that. I'm not the creator of it. I don't know where it came from, but I know what it feels like. I know how to maintain and stay there. Sometimes I get distracted. Actually, a lot of times I do. But I know how to get back there from distraction. It's no big deal. I get lost. Who cares? I know how to get back to the main road, and I get there. So getting lost is no longer a problem for me. Getting distracted is no longer a problem for me.
It's just part of the ride.
Yeah, I know how to get. I know how to get back there. I'm never lost. I'm just not where I want to be half the time. So I was like, I'm lost. I'm like, yeah, you're not lost. You're just not where you want to be.
I don't know how much of that it will go away.
No, it won't. It's just I understand it now, so I don't get emotionally attached to it. No.
Yeah, I was going to say, because that still happens all the time, and I just kind of.
Yeah, I redefined. Right now, the definition I use for it, I might change it. The definition I use for distraction is the art of discovery. So I took a perception onto something like, oh, that person's distracted. That seems like it's more of a negative output of trying to get something accomplished. But I'm like, well, we all get distracted at some point. So if I actually say this distraction is the art of discovery, it pivots me and take me what I consider to be a negative frequency, one I don't want to be in, and I actually can change it like an alchemist does. Alchemist takes the lowest, densest metal and turns it into the highest metal. Like, takes some lead and turn it into gold. Now we value it. And even if you measure it, the density is different, some frequency. It's not just made up. But you're able to, an alchemist can change that. Why? Because all energy is transferable. It's changeable. You can't destroy it, but you can transfer it. you can change it. So if I'm feeling bad, that's a frequency, and my body is getting all frequent. My body doesn't like it, so we call that bad. In that moment, I feel that's recognition. Like, ooh, turn the way you perceive this, change the perception of it. I keep getting distracted. No, distraction is the art of discovery. What feels better?
That's
5 years from now, I might have a completely definition from it because I'm not holding on to that. Because even that T-shirt phrase will have to disappear and new one will come up.
I like that you said, though, how does
Although
it feel?
shit happens will never go away, by the way. That's just that's one of the most brilliant statements. That shit happens, yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Remember that in Forrest Gump?
Hell
Where
yeah.
like,
Hell
shit
yeah.
happens and he wiped his face on it, and that's how the guy came up with the circle. Like, I like how they took that in and played it into that's how it came up. But, yeah, who knows? Like,
It's funny.
yeah.
We look at, like, everything that's going on, and we give it this immense amount of meaning. You know, whether it be of a family member, whether it be a friend, whether it be a child, a parent,
Politics.
yeah, politics,
Anything.
and we allow it to have this stronghold of a grip on us.
Yeah.
Where it's so true that we physically feel it. And that's the beauty of this body, this instrument. And when you're in control of, I shouldn't say in control because it's more letting go.
Letting go, and that's your actual control.
Because that is the control. It's letting go of trying to have control.
Because when the president lets go and delegates, that becomes a very efficient president.
That's why it flows.
Yeah.
And it's because, and Alan Watts also touched on this, the organism of this earth and what we're like living in, is a series of delegation, down to animal life, plant life, all of this. So delegation is happening all around us. We're just not calling it that because it happens to be a plant species or, different mammal, whatever. And so delegation's happening all around us. So for you to delegate the universe, it's your turn, your move, your next move.
Yeah.
You don't have to take control of trying to make a situation happen. You should just sit back, relax, and let it ride.
And learn to trust in that the universe is already is perfect delegation place. It's already, you think about this. Whose job is it to make sure the sun comes up every day? Can you imagine, like, you're literally assigned, like, 8 billion people on the planet, like, okay, today is your day, and then, like, you oversleep. It's like, fuck.
Dude,
you're fired.
There's a lot of people depending on you, man.
But can you imagine, like they say, well, if you screw this up, you're gonna be burnt at the stake.
Yeah, right.
Right. It's like, we're gonna make you stare at the sun, right? But it is nobody's job to make sure the oxygen level is up, the sun comes up, the rain comes. But yeah,
life takes care of life.
We then try to take care. I remember, I heard what's his name. Wayne Dyer says, I thought it was really cool the way he said it. He was talking about the birth of a child and everything from the conception in the development stage and when it's in the fetus is in the womb and everything else. And all of a sudden you hear, for 9 months, the baby is carried inside the mom. Everything is happening. Everything from the heart, the eyeballs are being created. The mom has nothing to do with the creation of that. She's just housing the ability for this baby to grow. So everything's just happening. It's not like the mom goes on Amazon and orders the eyeballs and sends it into her belly. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh shit, hey, did you put that order in? The freaking kids say, come on, just get over here with it, right? This is why men aren't in charge of having babies. They forget everything. They're like, oh shit, right. What week are we in?
No,
oh my God.
Ears, missing a nose.
The kid comes out, no feet. Sorry, dad didn't order them. But all of a sudden, there's this natural development that goes beyond the intelligence of the understanding of humans, that there's innate or a greater intelligence out there doing it. But what happens is, this is very interesting, and Wayne Dyer said this. So here you are all along, and you get the baby comes to the birth canal, and you look at this precious thing, and you say, thank you, God. And then you're like, we'll take it from here. To think that we have to do something where we didn't have to do something the moment before it came out to this child. We don't. Other than just nurture it and love it. And there'll be a doing in that. Just like the mom, when she got hungry, she ate. And I'm a dad. So there's times I worry about my son. And I realize my worrying about my son isn't helping my son. Because, I trust the universe is working for me. But my son has to do something in order for it to work for him. And I'm like, that's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. So now I'm not really trusting it. I think I'm better than... So, and any parent out there, when especially kids get to a certain age, and I'm not talking about teaching them how to brush their teeth or teaching them how to clean their room. And I've learned to do that. And, when I'm showing my son stuff, like clean his room, I cleaned it with him. Yeah, I didn't tell him, get out there and clean your goddamn room, I would go in, hey, clean your room. I'm like, I'll help you clean it. And he would see me go to pick up stuff, and he'd do it. And we'd make a game out. It was fun. I was showing him how to be efficient, because I had the experience of putting things in certain places, and I showed him. Yeah, we have to do that. But other development in the psychology of things and other stuff, it naturally happens. So if I have an intuition, so does my son and every other human being on the planet. If I have a governance, a body of people that are guiding me, or spirits that guide me, however you want to look at it, so does my son. And so does Mike, and so does everyone around me. So then all of a sudden, I stop worrying. They'll get it. When I interfere, don't do it that way, do it this way. I'm like, can you imagine, like, and again, I don't know the complete history, but like Mozart's parents, like, get away from the goddamn piano. And they locked it in the room because they don't want the 3-year-old to play on it, right? Can you imagine? Like, geez.
We just lost a symphony, people.
I'm going to change the story in history right now, and they're going to have fun with it. Mozart was actually able to play at 1 year old, but it took him 2 years for the parents to finally let him in the room where the piano was. Because he was already like, let me in. But it's like, oh my God, he played piano by 3 years old. I'm like, he would have been doing that one if you allow him to get into that room.
His parents allowed him.
Yeah. But what happened is one day they left the door open, he got in there, and they, dun, 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 dun. I was like, holy shit!
What's so funny is, though, guys,
Did I even have the right song to the right conductor? I don't even know.
Well, what's so funny is, so if we wanted to carry on a story, that's how story becomes history. History is a bunch of thrown together stories that have carried on, we think, throughout the years and manipulated, etc.
Yeah. One day I'm going to write a book on history.
Everything is narrating, mental commentary.
It is. And that's why, and the thing is that's where the half-truths come from. I'm not saying they're not true, but it's a half-truth because it's not the empirical truth. But empirical truth is all truths are true.
Oh, well, how can we have half people walking around Democrat, half walking around Republican, both thinking that world's going to end if you're either or, but we get along just fine, and our world's still here?
If you were raised Catholic and you're reading the Bible, opposed to being raised Jewish and Muslim, you're gonna fight for a different look onto an outcome. You're misunderstanding it completely. And I use those religions because they all recognize all the characters in the Bible because, Judaism is the branching off of Catholic, or I should say Christianity, not Catholicism, but Christianity and Muslim. So there's a recognition of the book, but the way they look at it is different. And there's the half-truths. Everyone is right and true in their thing, in their output and how they look at it. It's the moment in which you're saying that the other person isn't, is where the half-truth fails, or it fails you, because everyone's perception onto something is so if they play it out. And this is what we come into this understanding right now, that a lot of this arguing back and forth, whether it's politics or about this disease and stuff like that, people are like, what is the truth? I'm like, what truth do you want to be true? And you have to really put in consideration. I can't just say, well, my truth is I want to be able to fly like a bird. I'm like, well, do you innately and subconsciously believe you can fly? If you would, you wouldn't be talking about it. You would actually be flying. So come to an understanding, what you're already doing, lay your faith in that and let the rest of it go. Because if you were able to fly, you would already be flying. But you're able to walk. The fish can't walk. But you are. So stop thinking you want to be the bird and fly. If you do want to fly, get in an airplane or use some other vessel. I'm not saying in the future humans won't be able to fly without that. We already have these squirrel suits. I don't know what they call those things.
Those are cool.
Yeah, they are cool.
I know what you're talking about.
Can you imagine the first person? It's like, it's almost like the Mikey likes it type of guy, right? It's like, hey, give it to Mikey, he'll do it. And it's because, like, what's the, like, how do you know you're good at that? Hey, if you jump off and you just go, come back, you'll fly. Really? Yeah, zip it up, see how it works.
Exactly.
Hey, Jimmy, you need to make the stitching tighter on that. It did. All right, I'm on it.
Didn't work too well for us.
Let's go to a different town so no one hear about this failure of system. But I'm always amazed at the first person ever did it. And it's funny because someone said it's not the first person, it's the second person that you got to watch out for. Why the freak would they do it after seeing the first person do it? I'm like, yeah, that's true. It's a funny way of looking at it. First person didn't know any, but the second person did.
Well, yeah, they had something to look at.
They're even crazier. Yeah, I figured it out. But that's the extraordinary aspect of the physical world in which we're in. But know that the road you're going down or the path you're on, you already know the gifts you have. But when you know the gift you have, it will not, and you actually nurture it. When you nurture something, it innately and naturally expands automatically. But if you don't water the tree and nurture it, it's gonna dwarf on you. So know what you already are, know what you like, and know this. You don't try to search for something out there because you say, "Oh, that person's well known. They're very rich." Well, what do they do? I'm like, it's not what they do. There's rich people of all walks of life and do every different thing. You can be rich just like they am in a monetary and spiritual, just like anyone else. But you have to do it your way, or else you're just mimicking them, and that's work. When someone tells you, do this, and one day you'll be here, that's work. What me and Mike are talking about is not work. It's a lifestyle, if you want to use that word. Or a profession, if you want to use that word. Because the word work has like this, I gotta go to work. But you're like, I gotta go to a lifestyle.
It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's definitely lifestyle.
It's a way you live. It's a way you perceive and live your life. So it's a style of living. And the word lifestyle sounds so much better. It's not the work of the rich and famous. It's the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Come on.
It's the fullness of life.
Yeah, it is. So when you actually follow your path and go it, you'll always be supported, and that you'll have to come to learn to trust. I believe I can't be supported, so I have to work 40-hour work week. Well, that belief will put you in a 40-hour work week, and you'll prove it true. That's the half truth. But empirically, you chose that belief. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you don't want to work the 40-hour week, you want to do this, you have to find a way to expand the belief structure. You have to honor it, not just throw it away. And once you disassemble it and put it back together, because there's some principles in it, you allow it to expand. You'll find yourself not working 40-hour work week and doing what you love, and now you're in a lifestyle, and it's supporting you monetarily and spiritually and everything else. You're like, oh, now I know. But you have to, it's easier to take smaller steps. I think it was Mark Twain that talked about addictions. He said, addictions aren't to be tossed out the window. In other words, trying to get rid of them, but to be coaxed down the stairs one step at a time. And what I took from that, I'm not going to pretend to know what he meant by that, but when you actually walk down the stairs, there's this intricate and intimate aspect of moving downward and knowing what you're doing to eventually it becomes your rhythm and you no longer want to do it. But if you toss something out the window, you don't see it go away. It can easily come back in. Mm-hmm. But when you take the work to walk down the stairs, you become intimate and you forgot about the addiction, if you will, the thing that held over you. And so when we start to, our beliefs are our addictions.
Absolutely.
So
we are addicted to thoughts.
We are. And so what a belief structure is, a confine of structures that allow me to move in my life and stay in here. A belief of having to go to work is why I have to go to work. But empirically, that's not really true. That being said, because you believe that, I'm not saying toss it out the window. You'll go hysterical. you you'll go into psychosis. Don't do that. But when you walk it down the step, when you're examining the belief, you realize, oh, there's a little room for me to expand it where, okay, now I can go from 40-hour work week, but then what I could do is I could take the weekend and start my other thing. And this is just one way of doing it. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I'm making a little bit of money. So now I'm going to work 40 hours a week. 30 hours a week. You see what I'm saying? You transform it. Then one day you're not working at all.
All you're doing is you're taking the mental construct and you're allowing it to now work for you.
And you're absorbing. You're swifting around. So sometimes
I watch myself do that.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
When I started to come into these, concepts, I did that exact thing. Change from that 40, 50-hour work week of grinding, work harder to achieve. To, wait, there is a better way.
And when people get to this place, and the place isn't sedentary, it's not like stop, it keeps going. What they love talking about is when they worked the 40, 50-hour work week and then turned it around. So if you weren't doing that, there wouldn't be much of a story to be had. So what we do is, I love to hear these stories, and the reason we all like to hear these stories is because they let us know it's possible, but don't try to do it and search for that. If you're searching for something, you're lost. But when you're already there, now you move into the unknown and just simply you're an explorer. Explorers are not searching for anything. They're exploring and like, hey, look what we found. You see, like, oh, Columbus was searching for the East, and he discovered what's called Americas, right? And he was an explorer. Because if he wasn't, he would have been like, this is not what I'm looking for. This is all wrong. I'm going back to Spain or Italy, where, obviously, but Spain is where he was working for. But, when you start to look at it, they were explorers. But some people like to add, they're like, oh, he was looking for that and he messed up and look what he found. Well, yeah, it's not really how it works. He had no idea. He's just like, well, let's go this way.
Yeah.
Let's head this way and see what we find. And this is what we want to do. I want to head into the unknown with the guidance system that is already innately in me and give it to me. And if I listen to it,
given to everyone.
Yeah, it will help me get through this world. And we call that navigation. And we have navigation systems that we got stars like he had, and he had all these things. But we have it too. Even the stars in the galaxies or the stars that are in a solar system that we navigate through outside of the navigation are still a permission slip, people. I don't mean it's the illusion of letting go of it. It's part and parcel of the story in which we're in, but it's still only here in the story of the guidance system, because there is another guidance system that goes way beyond that. But sometimes we don't believe in it, so the universe says, oh, here's stars, here's the sun, or here's a Garmin now, or here's your cell phone that has a GPS. It's still a permission slip. There's still something still going on. But because I trust it and delegate it out, I listen to it and don't argue with it. But if we can when we get to the place in which we're moving towards, where you trust your higher self as the ultimate GPS, in which we understand in the physical world, and we start to really trust that, watch where we go. And I'm not indicating that we ought to be there already, because no.
We ought not to be anywhere or anything.
Like it's funny to argue. Like you go from the record player that produced music, and and then you had like the cassette, or you had the 8-track, the cassette, the CD, MP3 player. Now you have the cloud. But you don't go from the record player. It's like, why did we go through all this shit in the middle, not just to the cloud? I'm like, well, there's a story now. People, it depends what era you're from. Remember the CDs, Remember, like, people would take CDs to hang them in their rearview mirror, which drove me nuts, because if the light hit it, it was like, what the frick? That's a freaking hazard, people. Right? And then, like, you could fit more of those in your car than you could cassettes. And, forget about it, 8-track. 8-track was around for, 6 months?
That was the shortest, right?
Yeah, it was like 6 months. Pull this thing out.
What was that other thing? Well, I guess the MP3 player lasted a while, but there were so many different, off versions of it,
Yes,
different brick styles and stuff. It was so funny.
And the most famous one was the iPod, right?
Yeah.
And that's how
that was
Apple
the biggest.
resurfaced, right? I remember like
the
their
old
commercials.
iPod back when it used to be like shuffling.
Yeah, it's how Apple like resurfaced. They were always around, but that's brought them in back. And then the iPhone, then the all this stuff. I'm not getting to. Don't need to get in the history of Apple. I don't know where I went off on that one, but yeah, and as you start to understand these concepts of knowing that we're not here to search, we're here to explore, and to move into the unknown and to gather experiences. And when you do, it's odd. It's weird. It's not odd. It's very. There's something satisfying. You see the connection to everything. You start to see the connection, the synchronicity. It's not just random. It may seem random, but it's not. It's like, wow. And just like reading a book, as you're reading a book or watching a movie, you start to see these things collect, and you get to know the characters, and you get to know the traits, and you almost anticipate what they may do and do this. But then by the end of the movie, you're like, wow. All right? So what's the end of our movie? Individually. Well, when I croak. And then I'll know everything I need to know about the concept it was in, but I'm not going to know everything that throughout the universe and how God still thinks. But I'll know more than I know now. But right now, I like what I know, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know any more in this moment. But I know stepping into the unknown, I mostly step into it without fear, because fear inhibits, it creates a friction in between the knowing, and then when I come across something, I don't know what that is. It must be my enemy. And I'm like, the universe would not put the enemy in front of you. The enemy is a concept that humans created. I don't know this. Of course you don't know it. It's the first time you've seen it. But when you get so familiar and recognize and I only want to drink out of this cup, I didn't drink out of this cup, and someone gives me a glass cup, I'm like, what the hell is that? That's the enemy. It's going to kill me. It's not going to kill you. But if you think it's going to kill you, you end up cracking it, slicing your wrist open, and end up dead. Say, hey, I told you, I killed him. He killed, that's not really what killed him.
That's what our mind does, though.
It does. So when you get comfortable with the unknown, it's a brilliant way to live. And then anything that comes your way becomes your friend, your co-author, your comrade. Why do we choose, I don't know that person? Get him out of my land. Get him away from my house. Right? Or you can choose, I don't know that person. Hey, buddy, how you doing? What's your name? Boom. And when you go with that frequency, because of the law of induction, you actually create the frequency induction to where they couldn't have any other way. They might have killed someone from the previous village, but they can't kill. You don't know. But if you start thinking that and you get in the head, you're going to spear him. It's like, what happens? Like, the guy was just searching for water and chopping wood, and you speared him. Or gathering water. No one's searching for water. They're gathering water and chopping wood. But when you approach someone in that place, you actually create the setting. And if you don't waver from it, you'll maintain it. What was that guy's name? Will Rogers. I remember hearing this as a kid. Like, Will Rogers never met a man he's never liked, or a person he's never liked. Let's be more politically correct. And it's because Will Rogers had this obsession with positive attitude. He was obsessed with it. So when you walk but if you walk into him grumpy, you're like, that man's never met a man he hated, or didn't like. Because what we carry around with us is the concept of others we're going to get. We're going to mirror it back. So if you walk into a place excited and loving, you're going to meet someone excited and loving. I don't give a shit who it is. You're going to replicate that. You're going to put the concept onto them. And I've done this. I'm from New York, so I used to walk around like, unless I knew you for 2 years, you weren't my friend. Yeah. So I beat the shit out of you for 2 years, and then when you still stick around, you're my friend. Why are you friends with me? Well, you took a good punch, So if I ever get in a fight with another person I don't know, I know you'll stick around. You take a good punch.
You can hang.
So you can hang with me, yeah. But you almost created this tension scenario. But then when I moved out of there, and because that was the way, and all of a sudden, you walk around like, and then you see people smile. Hey, all of a sudden, when I changed my persona, my outward, my frequency output, I got a mirrored version back from it. I'm like, it's amazing. Men and women know this, especially men. because I'm a man. Karen's like, yeah. But when I actually go into a conversation with Karen, the attitude in which I show up is going to either make me sleep on the couch or be able to cuddle with her that night. It really is. And I have to, like, you're walking like that. It's like, well, you can sleep on the couch, But yet the words that came out of my mouth and everything else were recorded in a way that you shouldn't. Like, I love you. Like, well, I'm not grumpy. You do. But I am. I stepped into the field, and she picked up on it, and I ended up sleeping on the couch. Who's to blame? So before I step into the room with Karen, I work best change my attitude. And it's not a job because I feel better when I'm in the attitude and I'm able to snuggle with her in the bed rather than sleep on the couch. And if my ego gets me, I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm going to sleep in the car. Now you get really worse. I'm going to show you.
But this is what the mind does.
Yeah,
it's all that
mental.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sleep in a cave.
Of course, yeah.
No one's going to tell me what to do.
Exactly, dude. This is the mind on full blast. Like, this is what all of us are doing.
Do you know what's funny? And you realize there's a lot of this, not to pick
Who
on that.
treats me like that?
Yeah, but it's funny because, and I'm joking around here because I'm just playing here. But, like, you never hear of women sleeping on the couch. It's always the man because they're the guy like, I'm not going to be told what to do. I'm sleeping on the couch. Good luck, buddy. you wake up with a bad back.
Uncomfortable, yeah.
Yeah, that guy's miserable. Oh, he didn't want to be told what to do.
Yep.
He's a free man. No one's going to tell me what to do. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, shit, that doesn't it doesn't really work in the narrative in which you're trying to output or experience. But we realize it isn't that other person. I'm like, you have to, before you walk into a room, create the great relationship with yourself, and then it will perpetuate out, and then the concept you have of anyone in the room will be that way. And someone could say, I don't like that guy's an asshole. I'm like, oh, seemed very friendly with me. It's because I created an induction of a field, and I held on to it. And when you understand that, why wouldn't you do it? That's why understanding these principles help you do it. Because you actually see the correlation, the connection.
You become aware.
When you become aware of this works.
You see what's going on.
Yeah, you're no longer like a yo-yo, like, oh, I'm lucky. Oh, today I'm not lucky. I'm like, no, luck has nothing to do with it.
That's why they say, once you understand these concepts,
you're no
once
longer
you awaken,
lucky.
Not that. Once you awaken, there's no going back. Like, I can't go back and be like, what is happening to me? The world hates me. Why do all these people look at me like this?
It is. Yeah,
you know what's going on.
You never go back to sleep, but what I do doze off once in a while.
Absolutely.
So I take these like dozing off.
But the dozing is the mental commentary. It's the constant chatter. And the goal, okay, so I love this quote. Okay. I can't say it.
Maharashi?
Why am I saying
Maharashi.
Maharashi.
You're thinking about mana. That's like mushrooms,
I
right?
can't think of what that is.
Maharashi.
Well, Eckhart Tolle was talking about it once, and he was saying that Maharashi was asked, at a temple, by someone, what is the how do I know that I'm going down the right path spiritually? And his response was, the only true measure of the spiritual path, if you will, is your level or your is the absence of thought. The absence of thought is the only true criterion of the spiritual path. Essentially, is what he was saying. And so, in your daily life, the more you can go through the day without the mental commentary, the more you have the absence of thought, that is the awakened state. Yeah. That is what Frank and I are talking about. It's knowing you don't have to have the noise always going on.
And think about that. So that's like it comes from an Eastern philosophy, Eastern religion. Then when you look at like the Western religion, like in Christianity and Judaism, and even some of Muslim, as they work into the Western, and even Jesus said, "Become childlike." And when he said become childlike, it's exactly what Maharashi was saying, but differently. And what I mean is, children don't know if they're playing in the playground wrongly. They just dig in the sandbox and they swing on the swing. They don't have any awareness of it. So what are they not doing? They're not thinking. They're just responding to the field in which is written. So we came here to be responders, and this is what the word responsible comes from, the ability to respond. That's where the word derives from. It doesn't mean you have to do this and maintain this. It's the ability to respond. And when you have the ability to respond, you do not think. Reactors think too much.
So where does all this garbage of thinking come from? Well,
comes from
30,
Sesame
40,
Street.
50 years of saying,
Sesame
were you
Street.
not thinking?
Yeah, but
Were you not? Where is your mind?
Yeah, but where did they get it
It's
from?
the conditioned pattern.
Where did they get it from?
Year in, year out. What do you mean?
Like you think about it, like everyone says, it came from my parents. Well, then it came from their parents. So if you follow this lineage
Media.
back, and how I tell it, and I don't really know where it came from, but if I'm to guess, the way we think and the way we contemplate, and I explained this before, and I'll explain it again. Contemplation is utilizing the mind in a direction in which preferential, without the opposite effect of what you want to experience. Yeah, challenges are going to come and obstacles are going to come, but because you're in a preference setting, you're going to know how to overcome them. Thinking is saying, oh, I want to do this, but this can happen. Yeah, but what if we do this? But that can happen. And then you start to teeter-totter and you actually don't move forward. So most people that think about getting into business don't. People that get into business and are successful contemplated business and moved in the direction and discovered the unknown as they went on and realized the momentum. Oh, I've been in the unknown my whole life. Why do I expect it to collapse now? But people that think about it never step into what we call the unknown to ever even experience what they call. Children don't know enough to think about, should that person be my friend? They have a shovel. I have a pail. We're friends.
Yeah.
That's simple. You know, it doesn't take more than that. But then the concepts, where did that come from? It's interesting. I really don't know. I don't know how the humans created this possible of saying, well, we don't know that, so let's be scared of them. I really don't know. Yeah, I could say my dad taught me that and his dad taught him that, but how far back do we go? And then the story's created about Adam and Eve. That's how the story is created. They ate from the tree of the understanding of good and evil, of knowledge of good and evil. So what's knowledge? The ability to think. So they even recognize in the Old Testament that even in the Old Testament of the Bible, that when we start thinking that we know better than this universal source, we get lost. Just like the mom that gives birth to the child. Thank you, God, for creating this child, but we have it from here. It's like, no, you don't. You don't need to have it from here. You have all these operated delegation, physical, energies working in your favor. Just utilize the tools. Don't try to lift 1,000 pounds. Get into the forklift. Let the forklift lift it. You're directing the forklift, but it's effortless when you're in the forklift. Why would you try to lift it and break your back? And then say it's impossible. Look, God damned me. No, God, there's a forklift right there. God didn't damn you. You damned yourself. Where did this start from? I don't know. Maybe it's so subtle in its form that climbing a tree, my association as a child, climbing a tree made me happy, and I thought it was a tree that made me happy. Maybe it was such a tight-knit association. The causation was I was happy. The expression of my happiness was me climbing a tree. Oh, maybe we're supposed to fall into that of bearing the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil in order to come out of it. Maybe that's part and parcel of the game. I don't know enough to do that. So did Adam and Eve do something wrong? I don't know. I have no idea. I really don't. I'm just glad that Adam gave up a rib. So, once he saw another man and saw the woman, he says, whoa, man.
Whoa, man.
Whoa, man.
I like that.
Yeah. But, it's a companion. And so everyone has their concept of it. I don't know enough to know if they did something wrong. But as we're waking onto this, I must know more. It's a very silly concept. Anyone that
I just think it's funny because to think we know anything is such a human
Yeah.
trait. We don't.
well, it's
There's
I don't
nothing
know-
to know. You just be.
Yeah, but I think that's part and parcel of it. So it's like a human trait. I don't know.
Anything we say we know is a commentary, a narrated story, though. You see
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like this is what I know, and
it-
it's all a story.
There is a knowing, but the reason you know nothing because the thing that you come to know is now fleeting.
Well, I know they're all stories.
Well, it's even like I can know a bubble as it floats up, but when it pops, I no longer know it. It's gone. Just like I know the breath coming in, I know there's oxygen coming in, but once I breathe out and breathe out carbon dioxide, the next set of oxygen molecules are different than the one before. So this knowing of tangible of knowledge is constantly fleeting and expanding. And then every once in a while they change the history books. I'm like, oh, you watch a documentary, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that happened. And then you realize like, well, how did they know that happened? Because you notice how history keeps changing as we keep moving on, but yet the people, we're getting further from the date in which we label the date in which it happened. Like if there was a guy that was 100 years old talking about like something that happened 100 years ago, I might listen. But then again, I'm like, hey, how good is his brain? When I was a kid, But again, it's a game, it's a play. I'm not saying there's no truth to it. I'm not denying it or taking away the validity of it. But there's a mixture of half-truths in there. And when we understand that, you don't full-heartedly jump onto something. But there are empirical truths they can hold on to. There's empirical laws that you can hold on to. And through these principles, you'll get through this world. Where'd they come from? I don't know. Who created them? God, if you want to label it universalist. Why? I don't know. Who created words so we can actually read a book? Yeah, you probably go back and figure that one out, but
I like that.
Yeah, it's
I get what you're saying.
There probably is a history on it. Someone's probably out there. Oh, you idiot!
Even that, it's some story on itself.
Yeah, and that someone invented the words in order to do that. But
That's
yet,
it.
there is some weird understanding of correlation, or there is something here that makes sense of this. It makes sense of it, and that's all I know. But I no longer am searching for anything.
That's because it's consciousness, and
Yeah.
it's been here forever. It's never gone anywhere, and it will forever be here.
I remember watching a show, and it was on consciousness, and this guy who was going through it, he was narrating the documentary, and he
Kind
got
of like we do every day in our heads.
yeah, and he got in front of almost every spiritual leader you can know, and very famous ones, and he asked everyone, "So what is consciousness?" And it's funny because they all had different answers, and they were still no one said this is what consciousness is. They're like, well, consciousness is like, I'll tell you today and tomorrow. I'm like, oh shit, I should have said this. You can't really explain what consciousness is. You can experience it, and so what me and Mike are here to do, and other great people out there are here to do, is to not tell you how you ought to think, what you ought to do, but just to lead you to the edge to where you're the one with the wings that can fly and have the experience of it. It's your experience. It's your truth. Don't, when people ask me, what do you do about this? What do you do? I'm like, I refrain from telling them because it's not what I do. It's how I feel and believe about what I do is where the effect comes from. Where does that come from? Well, that's where it all gets fuzzy. I don't know why gravity exists. Well, it's to keep us on the planet. I'm like, why do we need to be kept? I could go down this rabbit hole, but it does. It does. And because we understand it to a level in which we do to actually survive or live on this world, I come to understand it, know it. I don't need to be a philosopher or a scientist to understand
to
it.
grasp it or
to
to
grasp
use it.
No, not to use it. Yeah, a lot of athletes use it amazingly, but they know nothing of classic physics or Yeah.
Sure, anybody can grasp the concept. It doesn't mean you know it through
Yeah.
and through.
They
I
would
know
almost be saying like the greatest athletes ought
I
to
can't
be.
recite it.
Yeah, like the greatest athletes should be great at calculus or any type of mathematics and physics. But that's not the truth. Like they might be able to express it.
What's that you used to tell me about the guy in the football and doesn't mean you can throw it like the scientists can calculate how to throw a football perfect. Doesn't mean they can throw it as good as Tom Brady.
The scientists will explain the trajectory and the wind blow and everything else as someone's throwing the football, but the scientist is not going to throw further than Tom Brady.
And
Tom Brady might, again, I'm not speaking for Tom Brady. He might know the physics of it, but he at some point when he was throwing the football, he didn't know the physics.
Exactly. I love that example.
Yeah,
That's a great example.
Yeah,
of that.
but yet Tom Brady to launch a ball. I don't know how many yards he could throw, but the guy that might know the physics and trajectory,
yeah, like to a T, the math
he
all the way.
He might be able to throw 20 yards. You know what I'm saying? If he's lucky. So just intellectualizing something
doesn't mean you can do it.
No, and even like
or doesn't mean you're experiencing it. Because that's also a big part of this spiritual path is just because you understand the concept doesn't mean you are living it.
There are people of all different walks of life that are historians, sport historians, music historians. Now, they may have dabbled in the field of music, playing this, but they're not what you consider the full-on musician or the athlete. And the athlete isn't better than the historian because without the historian, the athlete would not continue, so to speak, because what's creating the appetite for the person watching the athlete or the audience listening to the music is the person explaining it to some degree. I would always love to read articles on musicians. Now I open up to everyone. I just like watching interviews, how people respond and react to things. And I try to get a whole different perspective. I'm not trying to know them. I'm just trying to see the part they play. But like it would be like, some study of music. It's like, okay, so how did you know to conduct the chorus into this and shift onto that? And the musician's like, well, we were just sitting around one day and, just, and just have
They're the conduit.
Musician's not like trying to philosophize or study, and not to say they don't. Like,
of course not.
A lot of great musicians actually are very well versed in it, but they weren't like Jimmy Page and Robert Plant weren't sitting there talking about the concept of music when Stairway to Heaven came to them. That's not what happened. Now, after this song was written and composed, then the understanding of music, the study of music, can put up its measurements to it and say, of course this sounds good. But you can't measure something until it's built. So everyone's trying to measure something to get there. I'm like, no, you got to put the measuring tools away in order to create something. Because you're going into the unknown. You don't even know what tools to use yet. And all of a sudden they do it. Now you can oh yeah, of course this sounds good because it has this variance and this variables and the sequence of notes and the way it's playing. It's like, oh, I never heard that before, but it works. So when people study music concept, composition, but studying music composition doesn't make one a great musician. But it can explain great music. But the great music came first, then the explanation. The musician's like, I know. That's my Keith Richards.
Love it. But hey, that's because it's not this
Sorry, Keith.
that matters. This is the instrument, guys.
Yeah.
We're putting so much meaning on this guy and the thing. It's like no. This is the conduit of everything speaking out.
And the measurement and the science has its place. Because it allows us to continue. Because if there was no looking at it and measuring it, where would we go from here? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not that it doesn't have its place, but its place isn't the starting point. The song has to be played in order for it to be listened, to be heard. And it happens so quickly. And then you say, oh, Why does it sound so good? And someone that studied music, theory, it was like, oh, this is why. This is the theory of music. And I was like, oh my God. But the people who had written it didn't necessarily need to know the theory. Certainly a person listening to it on the radio didn't need to know the theory of music to know that Stairway to Heaven sounds pretty damn good. They didn't need to know the theory. I don't get this song, Stairway to Heaven. Have you learned music theory? No. Well, it's about a 4-year course, and if you learn it properly, you'll understand theory. So you get out of and graduation's like, you start hearing, now I get it. I understand it.
I get
Holy
it.
shit. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Then you get the other guy. What happens? I never graduated. I still don't get it. I give up on it. It's like, oh, that sucks. But that's not how it works.
We do that with so many things.
We do.
Yeah. I just got to learn this, and then I'll be able to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Then I'll truly be able to enjoy that.
Yeah. It's like, you didn't need to read a book on oxygen to learn how to breathe. You just did. But you can study oxygen molecules and why they work and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that, because the intricacy of it in getting focused on it, that's the meditation of life. Because when you study, you can't really think about it. So that creates this meditation. But that's all it really is. It's part and parcel of the whole big picture. But are you breathing better because of it? You might know the function of breathing. You might consciously breathe differently. Interesting. When something suggests it, like you breathe into your nose deeper, your body oxygenates, you start to feel better. And all of a sudden, really, oh, you're right,
Just like the way you breathe, without even knowing it, that inhale, that exhale, and just the way that the heart works and just the way that the body works, we don't recognize that something is...
Isn't greater intelligence?
Yeah, it isn't, work. Well, no, I mean, like, we don't, unless something is not working as it should, then we're aware of it. So if we're aware of our mind, then it's not working as it should.
Yeah.
It's a very good way to look at this.
And even in certain instances where things are shifting and changing, and we think something's wrong.
Well,
and it might not be.
The heart runs without us knowing it. We sometimes it's hard to even pay attention until you put your hand over to hear it.
It always has. Yeah. Because when it's not running, you just don't know anything.
That's it. And then the breathing, the same type thing. Unless you have trouble breathing, you don't know. So, if you're experiencing the thinking, the thoughts, that's not it working properly. You should not be. It should be a free flow. And this is why Maharishi was saying, the absence of thought is the only true criterion for, the spiritual path or making gain in the spiritual path.
Yeah, actually, I was reading one of the comments on our videos today, the other day. I forgot when it was put up, but it said the quiet mind, I don't know if I'm quoting this right from the person put it on there, the quiet mind is more powerful than the thinking mind. No, was it?
No, it was.
No, what was it?
I remember this.
The quiet mind, the positive mind. The quiet mind is more powerful than the positive mind. And again, it's kind of like, break it down. I would say it a little differently. Not that it's wrong; it's just different. I would say the quiet mind creates the positive mind, but the thinking mind disrupts everything. So. And it's kind of like how you phrase it, how you look at it, because when you get quiet, that's when all the information you need to know comes into you, because it's always been waiting for you. But when you're noisy, you can't hear your wife yelling from the other room, go answer the door, as you're sitting there watching the football game on TV and you wonder why she's pissed at you.
AKA constant mental commentary noise.
Yeah, exactly. So when we get quiet, we actually, we know everything around us. So the quiet mind will produce the positive mind. But trying to think positive, the thing about trying to think positive, so we
shouldn't be thinking.
Well, the reason being is,
or the goal is not to
think
your way to the matter.
Well, the principle of polarity is, if there's a positive thought, there has to be a negative thought, and it's just on the other side. But when you're in a quiet place and you can work your way to the quiet place, the mind naturally becomes positive. because everything's generated. If you actually understand the laws that govern, like the electricity and stuff, the negative and positive, even though they're opposite poles, but everything is born out of the negative polarity, and then reciprocated through the positive. So it
Without
isn't
the negative.
negative in that case. In all cases, ought not to look at it as a bad connotation.
Again, conditioned mind.
So the word negative has a bad term to it. No, everything that comes, everything that we experience that's birth comes out of negative polarity, and then it feeds and replicates into the positive. And that's what we're talking about here. So if people are, oh, it's negative, like they automatically start to feel bad. I'm like, why? Everything comes out of negative, comes out of someplace. So we start to understand these concepts, and I don't know how we slipped up on these things. You know, some people even change the word negative when it comes to the pole of negative. They'll change it to something else so it doesn't have the correlation of bad. Because even they said the feminine is negative and the masculine is positive, and people get all up in arms. I'm like, yeah, when you understand the true understand negative, where everything is born from, yeah, the feminine is where the birth comes from. Then the positive takes the birth of the thing and exercises it, experiences it, replicates it. So that's, the perpetuation of it. So the positive is perpetuation. But what are you perpetuating? Something that was born out of nothing. So,
Well, it's because we've always been here and we always will be.
yeah, when I do something new, when I look in the mirror just helps perpetuate the new thing I did.
And when I say we have always been here, we will always will be, I'm referring to consciousness.
Yeah, I'm not talking
the
about this
physical
room.
instrument.
Yeah.
This I'm dying right now. We are all decaying as we speak. Right now, everything's moving.
Or we're just transforming.
That's a great way to say it.
I don't know if
I just like to have the drastic, hey, we are
There are
consistently
mornings where I
changing
look
every
in the
day.
mirror, I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm decaying.
Oh, God, I'm decaying.
Look at this decaying all over my face. I'm like a log in the freaking woods, right? Just laying on the ground. I'm decaying.
It's funny, man.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Even with,
Yeah, so that's me and Mike, we like talking about this, so even if we didn't have an audience, we would sit here and talk about this stuff anyway.
Absolutely.
But just stick to
Well, Frank and I, we get together. This is, at least for me, this is for me.
Yeah.
Coming here, every Wednesday when you and I sit down together, these talks, they help me stay at that, elevated level, that knowing.
They remind you that you're already where you're at, and so we step into like this. Like again, like me and like Mike, we get together. Like, what are we going to talk about tonight? I'm like, and we both look at it like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, Mike will say something like, "That's what we're going to talk about. That's exactly what we're going to talk about.
Jump into it.
Let's do that." And then we take it from there, and then we let it unravel. Like the reason we do this effortlessly because we don't know what we're stepping into the unknown. The second we press the record button,
allow it to be,
and we don't even know what's going to end. People, how do you? I'm like, I don't know. It just
naturally
happens.
comes.
I think when I start yawning, I'm like, yeah, I think we're done here. We're getting hungry. Let's just end this.
Right.
Yeah. Or if I mention Karen too much, I'm like, okay, I mentioned it 3 times. We got to end this because she's gonna be pissed.
Cut it.
It's time to go.
Cut it.
Karen's like,
save that for next week.
Yeah. Oh, God. Well, hey, that's the perspective we like to offer.
Yeah.
And find your own truth because everyone has their own truth.
You are your own truth right now.
You are. And don't meddle in other people's truths unless you like to play the game of arguing. There's nothing wrong with that, too. But you argue enough, you're going to get tired of it and realize all truths are true. So the truth that you're arguing over is a half-truth. It doesn't mean I'm not taking it away from it, but that's your truth. And that's the perspective we like to shift people into, or I like to shift into.
You are already there.
We're there.
Absolutely.
Just keep exploring into the unknown.
Appreciate you guys joining us this week.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week on Wednesday. If you like what you hear, go ahead, leave us a comment. You can subscribe below, or you can shoot us a question at our Gmail as well, perspectiveshift2020 @gmail.com.
Yeah. Peace.
Thanks, guys.